Do you need to score a 9 on the IELTS listening section in a few days? Even though you've done thousands of practice exams, your score is not improving. By the end of this video, IELTS listening will not be as scary as you've thought, and I will give you strategies and techniques you can use to improve your score fast and easily. Let's start with tip number 1. Before the audio begins, quickly skim through the questions. By doing this, you can anticipate what kind of information you will need to listen for. For example, if the question asks for a date, you will know that you need to listen carefully when dates are mentioned in the conversation. Predicting answers helps you to focus your attention during the audio and allows you to be more efficient in identifying the relevant information. Ask yourself questions like, is it a noun or a verb or even an adjective? Let's move on to the next tip. Circle or underline keywords and be ready to hear the paraphrased version of those keywords. For example, if the question asks for the time of an event, you need to listen carefully for phrases like starts at or opens at, or even specific times mentioned in the conversation. Being able to recognize and capture these key details is so important in the IELTS listening section. Let's move on to tip number 3, paying attention to spelling. Even if you know the answer, a misspelled word can cost you a point. Make sure to listen carefully and accurately transcribe the words you hear. If you're unsure about the spelling of a word, you should definitely try to write it as accurately as possible based on what you've heard. However, be cautious not to spend too much time on spelling. If you're unsure, it's better to move on to the next question and come back to it if you have time at the end. Tip number 4, don't panic. If you miss an answer, don't dwell on it. Focus to move on to the next question and focus on getting the remaining ones right. It's better to make educated guesses rather than leaving questions unanswered. Let's move on to strategy number 5. When you're faced with multiple choice check questions in part 3 of the IELTS listening test, it's not uncommon to encounter options that seem plausible at first glance but are actually incorrect upon closer examination. In such cases, if you're unsure about the correct answer, a helpful strategy is to systematically eliminate any options that you know are definitely wrong. If you come across an option that clearly doesn't match the information provided in the recording or contradicts the context of the conversation, eliminate it immediately. This reduces the number of options you need to consider and narrows down your choices. Let's move on to strategy number 6, which many students are ignoring these days. You will not hear just an American accent in your listening test. You might hear British or Australian or Canadian or any other accent of an English-speaking country as well. I understand that some people have very limited time to prepare for IELTS, and I explained it what I would do if I only had 9 days to prepare in the video you can see somewhere on the screen.